Alright, I want to show you guys the current progress of the build. This is a level 81 zone, which is a T15 plus 2 levels, the highest you can get. So not too many tank mods, just a couple of crit and damage mods, so nothing too crazy. And they're evasive, but we have 100% accuracy. This is a breach, so you guys clear. So clear is pretty good. I can consistently freeze now. It's just a big change to the build. Clear is pretty good, I would say. Not the best, probably. There's better builds, but damage is good. Killing rares. So clear is very good for the build, I would say, which is probably the best part about the build currently. Fairly tanky. Poison is doing work, you can see. Probably a bunch of degen right there, but I can't see it because there's so many enemies. They're all dying to poison, so it's fine. Pretty good clear. Hey everybody, I wanted to make one final update for the Poison Acolyte of Chayula Monk. Our Chonk build is what I start off as from day one. Pretty fun overall. Took a while to build it out and figure out what to do. I have other info for as far as gems and gearing, as much as I have been able to test and find out. So I should answer most of your questions right here if you watch the rest of the video. Overall, the build is quite enjoyable. It's very comfy. In particular is the main thing. It's quite tanky. We are 92 and 63% HP or XP. So obviously we have to be pretty tanky to get this high level and not die, obviously. So with Grim Feast we can get 5k ES while mapping, 1.7k life. Pretty tanky overall, I would say. We are using Acro for 50% evasion, give or take. So that's pretty nice. We can 50-50 evade AoEs and spells, in particular from range where you get shotgunned by a bunch of stuff. So that's pretty nice. That is one of the main changes from the last video. We went acrobatics. It's just really strong overall. Would recommend. The other big change is the Call of Brotherhood ring. So we are converting all my damage to cold. You can see right here in the stats, 90% or so of my damage is cold damage. That means we can consistently one-shot and freeze everything, getting charges for our charge staff. So really nice overall. So basically we freeze and poison every single enemy in one pack with one hit. Rares maybe two or three hits at most, and then the poison will take them down. The clear is quite good. Like I said, the clear is probably 8 tier or something like that. Other thing, only a couple of builds with like Spark, where you can shoot Spark everywhere, will be better than this build, I would say, for clear overall. Because you just do a one-tap pack at range, pretty good range, and yeah. Other than that, single target is so-so. It's enough to get the job done, but I would say overall it's just enough. Nothing too crazy. I've only killed 2 pinnacle bosses the last floor of the trial, and I've also killed a T3 breachlord, but that took quite a while. It's a bit of a slow kill, so my damage is not the best for single target, but it's good enough as a first build, I would say. So as far as the Sensi and playstyle, you just stormwave, like I said, for clear. Very low buttons, so very comfy. You put this totem up. This totem gives us rage for a little bit of extra damage. This is our wither applicator. We press hand of Chayula. That is how I apply my curses. So just target enemy, and you will dash and hit them with some curses. And charge staff is mostly for clear. That just gives us a little bit extra damage, and most importantly, gives us the poison explosions you see in the mapping example. So very low button build, very comfy as far as that goes. The Sensi itself is okay, but needs some buffs and needs a bit of rework. Darkness, complete garbage. It needs to be at least 3-4 times stronger or something like that, because you lose all your auras, you lose all spirit, and I don't even know. I think it just needs a rework, I'll be honest. Even if you buff it, it's gonna feel super clunky without the having auras, basically, right? The leech, also pretty useless. I tried to use a pure physical staff. It didn't work with the leech. We were not leeching enough, so that never solved the mana problem. So the mana problem, as far as the build goes, yeah, you're gonna probably have to go one wheel here if you really feel like you have problems with mana. In particular, when you are weaker, because you have to attack multiple times. This gives 16% mana cost reduction, some mana regen. And that's basically all you can really do other than use that combined with life. Mana Flash should be good enough. At least for me, it was good enough. Other than that, the flames itself are pretty clunky. I would say they need a buff of some sort, or maybe a slight rework. The Chaos Res is good. The extra damage as physical is quite good for poison. And yeah, that's it. One more thing about the changes since the last video, we are using weapon swap tech, like I said. It does all these right here. Basically, we are buffing our curses and our marks right here. And that's the whole purpose of the weapon swap. It is a little bit clunky. You don't have to use it, your choice. But it does make our curses and marks a little bit stronger. Other than that, not much has changed. Overall, like I said, pretty solid starter build. One of the better Chayula Monk builds out there, I would say. And that is it for the final update. You can watch the rest of the video. Hopefully it'll answer all your questions. And thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the video. Let's go over my gems really quickly. This is my final setup. I'll include some alternative support gems for single target. We have Vitality, Cannibalism, Clarity, Herbalism, Precision. All the support links for auras into the breach. Stormwave is next. My main skill. Primal Ornament for damage. Long Shot, you can use close combat if it's a fight where you always stick on the boss's ass. So that is an option. Conk Effect, Cold Infusion, and Ice Bite for clear. We can swap out to Comorbidity. It does lower your duration of poisons. So that should be, if you're under like 4 seconds or so, you might want to try Deadly Poison. That does lower your hit damage and does lower your freeze buildup because of that. So that's another option you have. And Charge Staff, this is mostly for clear. It doesn't really do anything against bosses. We will not have the charge generation for bosses because we can't consistently freeze them. So Bursting Plague is the explosion you see. It helps out with clear quite a bit, so that's pretty nice. When you activate this, you do the regular Stormwave, it will just add that on top. We have Perpetual Charges, so sometimes it doesn't use charges, and Maim. We can also put Withering Touch in there for clear especially, because when you're clearing, you rarely drop the totem ever. This is just for bossing, so that's also another option you can do. Swap that in and out depending on the content. Hand of Chayula is how we apply our curses. So we have Freezing Mark, Despair, Heightened Curse, and Inspiration to lower the cost. Next up is Dark Effigy. The most important thing, keep it level 9. You just want this to be the lowest level possible because it's just to apply withers. There's no point. It almost always dies even at high level to 1 punch from any enemy or AoE attack. So might as well keep the mana cost low, right? So we can usually have Withering Touch in here. Persistence, so it lasts longer, and the withers last longer when it hits. And we have Font of Rage. That means when we put this down, we can get Rage, which we can prep a little bit extra damage if we're around the totem. But you can see it's fairly short range. If you're too far, you just lose the Rage, but each one is 1% more damage. So that is nice. You can do Font of Mana too if you want to 5-link it, but I felt like it wasn't that worth it to 5-link it, so I left it as a 4-link. Ghost Dance, our aura right here, just a bit of tank. We have Fast Forward to lower the cooldown on it so it comes back faster. Grim Feast, that gives us our overheal. We can get up to 5k ES when we're mapping, which is very strong for defense. Herald of Plague, the clear. Cast Mastery, doesn't really hit the breakpoint. I think you have to hit 21 to hit the next breakpoint, but it has there eventually. If you get 20, you can get there. Profusion, extra charge sometimes when you generate charges through Combat Frenzy. Through Resonance, when we get a Frenzy, it gives us a power charge for a Charge Staff. And finally, Wind Dancer. We just have blind and magnified effect here. Nothing too special. You can put whatever. You can put coal or whatever. Doesn't really matter. And that is our gems. Let's go over my gear really quickly for the finalized version of the build. So this is the gear I'm using currently. We are using a around 570 DPS quarterstaff. You are looking for Fizz, Cold, and Lightning. Whatever combo you can get as much DPS as possible. And the suffixes, the mana gain per kill is quite nice for mapping, for mana sustain. There is also attack speed, which does make the build smoother, but on the other hand, it does make that singular poison from the hit lower compared to a quarterstaff that has no attack speed and same DPS, so watch out for that. But other than that, you're just looking for stats. Probably on the suffix would be nice, just to save a couple points on the other pieces of gear. And as far as the runes go, you go double physical, and that's basically it for the quarterstaff. Most DPS as possible you can find and afford. The helmet, you are looking for as much ES as possible because we are abusing this. The subterfuge mask damage each 2 evasion equals 1 ES. This helmet right here gives us 700 evasion, pretty strong. As far as suffixes go, it's just resistance, nothing special. Ruin, you want a increased armor and evasion, mostly just for the ES here. Chest, same thing. We are abusing, in this case, Spectral Ward. We want as much evasion in ES as possible, just for extra ES. Suffixes will be dexterity, resistance, like nothing special. It's just pretty generic here. The ring is called a Brotherhood, really a big addition. Makes our freezes much more consistent. You can see right here my damage. We are 90+% cold damage, so it makes our freezes in the first attack almost always happen, especially while mapping. So just super strong and very nice for the build. Plague Fingers, nothing changed here. Corrupt these, try get was it double socket, I think is probably the best for flexibilities. The belt is just strength, resist life. Like there's really nothing special about the belt. Same thing with the boots, nothing special again. Get as much moves, get 30 move speed, of course. Some life, evasion, ES, and suffixes will be resist, stats, whatever you can get. Same thing with the ring. Just get as much resist and stats as possible. On the prefix, you can get some flat damage. That is nice for our damage. There's also a prefix for cold damage. That is also nice, but once again, just resist, and that's basically it for the gear. So as far as costs for the build, I would say we're probably pumping around 450 or so. I didn't want to spend too much on this build, so I think most of the pieces are like 50 exalts each, give or take. Oh yeah, I forgot the amulet. So for the amulet, I had to get 60 spirit for the 2 ores we want, 2 extra ores. So I needed 60 spirit total, so that's why we have this base and 50 spirit as one of the mods. The +2 is actually pretty nice. So you can see stormwave right here, 409 damage effectiveness. Take this out. -2 levels, 371. So that is quite nice for damage. Downside, increases mana cost, so be careful about plus levels if you can't afford the mana cost. And just resist, we have ES on the prefix, but that's like okay, I guess. Life would also be good, obviously. But get whatever you can get at this point. Nothing too particular that you're looking for other than spirit, I would say. And like I said, the whole build is like around 450 exalts, give or take. It's hard to judge. I think most of the gear here, this one's like 40 to 50. It's quarterstaff, at least when I bought it. 50, 50, 50, 50. That's 200. This is 50. I don't know. Probably around there. That's like 250. I think these are like maybe another 50. The rings isn't that expensive. The gloves are pretty cheap. This one I actually just made myself randomly, so I probably need to replace it, but probably around 50 when I get a final replacement. The jewels, I don't know. I bought them for really cheap, like a couple exalts each. Hard to say. but I also have 1 6 link and 1 5 link as far as the gems are for like value wise. So I would say in total the build's around 450 or so exalts. Not too expensive, I would say, for the super endgame, but not exactly super cheap either. So just be aware of that. And that's it for gear. So one last thing I forgot about is the jewels. You can see all the jewel mods here. That's very, very strong. These are one of the sources of most of our damage and especially poison chance. So a couple things about the jewel mods. As I mentioned, poison chance is really important. Chance to inflict ailments, that is based on your base chance to poison. Let's say you have 90% chance to poison your build. If you have 10% increased chance to do ailments, that is only 9% poison. So keep that in mind. So you should be able to get 1 to 2 increased chance to do ailments only. So yeah, don't get more than that because it won't be very valuable past a certain point because your base chance of poison is not high enough. So obviously, just bounce out to 100% poison. And as far as mods, here's a list of mods. So I did some testing with the jewel mods. This is our base poison for me. If I get elemental damage, these are the max roll on each mod. Elemental is good, attacks a little bit better, quarterstaff's a little bit better. Ailment magnitude and poison magnitude are pretty strong, and faster ailment was the winner as far as mods you can find on Jewel. And poison duration and duration ailments are the same thing, they're just different wording, but they seem to be adding the same amount of poison duration. And same thing with poison magnitude and ailment magnitude, they seem like they're the same stat basically, so you can get either or. But as you see, the magnitude and ailment, faster ailment, are the two best mods usually as far as damage goes, but it's not that different, right? You can see like elemental right here, it's just like 300 damage less than the magnitude. So get whatever combination you can find basically. There's nothing really that stands out, I would say. And that's it for the jewel mods. So I'll go over the tree, and in particular, the biggest change I would say since my last video in the final setup is we have a couple things. We have acrobatics, and then we have weapon swap tech. So the weapon swap tech, I will admit, it's a bit clunky sometimes because it does take a second or two to swap, but it's fast enough and we're poisoned, so it does make our curses stronger and our marks stronger and gives them debuffs. So that is the nice upside, and it's worth the crunk, I think. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. So in the start, nothing much has changed. We are grabbing this for faster ES recharge. Eventually, if we have more points, we could grab this for damage that's extra cold. But other than that, the initial start is the same. We're grabbing the ES nodes here. You can see right here, that red thing is what weapon swap 1. This is all our damage, so that's why it looks a little weird. We are going here, getting the jewel. Weapon swap 1 stuff here and here. Basically, all the attacks are weapon swap 1 and poison effect, because when we punch for the curses, we don't care about the poison. We just need curse extra, like curse effects. Once again, we're going resonance up here, get the jewel. So this is where our weapon swap 2, all this stuff buffs the curse effect, and it makes it last longer, and that's basically it. Right here for ES, weapon swap 1 for the poisons. We are going aggro. Aggro is really strong. You can see right now we are at 53% evasion. That means, in particular for bossing in the end game, we can dodge spells, AoE on the ground. Guess what bosses do? Spells and AoE on the ground. They don't really punch you, because if they punch you, you're dead already. Or usually when their punches are AoE, you can't avoid it with regular evasion. So we get aggro, which gives us a 50-50 chance, give or take, to avoid it. So 50-50 is usually better than the alternative, so that's why we have that. I would recommend aggro once you get enough evasion. So you want to be around like 75 or so before aggro, before you want to switch, because otherwise you won't have enough evasion after aggro. What are we getting? We're getting the poison nodes here. Poison nodes. This is the best pathing I found. Unless you find some other better pathing, this is what I found to be the best for this build. We are stacking a lot of evasion and movement. As much movement speed as we can find on a tree, just because movement speed is OP. So Jewel here, this is more the curse, the extra mark setup. So this, I believe when we apply the mark, it should last forever, that they can't crit, but I'm not quite sure how to confirm that. Basically, I hope it works. It does give mark effect, so that should make the freeze stack up a little bit faster. Same thing over here, some mark effect. Skill duration, culling strike, and increased damage. It's really hard to tell if it works or not, but I'm gonna assume it works when we use that with the weapon swap. Down here for the jewel, and that is the tree. The Sensi, oh yeah, the Sensi is just double chaos. This extra as and the flames. And that is the passive.